December 1941, Zbigniew, Poland. Dr. Stanisław Matulewicz pushes a needle into a man's arm. The man holds a 2-week pass from a German labor camp. He wants the arm amputated. He'd rather lose it than go back to the factory. Matulewicz fills the syringe with dead bacteria instead. The man goes home to wait. 6 days later, the lab result comes back, a telegram stamped red. Positive for typhus. The man is confined to his house. The next transport leaves without him. Dr. Eugene Łazowski is standing in the clinic doorway when the telegram arrives. He reads it once. He knows what's actually in that vial. He knows the man was never sick. The diagnosis is fake. The exemption is real. The trick lives inside Proteus O X19, a common gut bacterium. Before using it, Matulewicz kills it with phenol, so the injection cannot make anyone sick. But the dead cells still carry a marker almost identical to one on the germ that causes epidemic typhus. The standard wartime test, the vial Felix test, cannot tell the difference. Inject a healthy man with that culture, and his blood comes back positive for typhus he has never had. Łazowski sees what one fake diagnosis could become. Not an exemption. A method. German occupation forces were draining Poland for labor. Up to 3 million Poles sent to camps and factories. At Mauthausen-Gusen, prisoners carried granite blocks up a staircase of 186 steps until they collapsed. But German command feared something else just as much. Typhus. It had crippled armies on the Eastern Front. German soldiers had no immunity to it. Their defense was distance. Quarantine zones with no exceptions. In 1939, German bombers strafed the Red Cross train Łazowski served on. A Soviet bullet shattered the camera hanging from his chest, stopping inches from his ribs. Later, he jumped from a moving boxcar to escape a Soviet transport, then climbed a wall to break out of a POW camp. By the time he reached Rozwadów on foot, he had almost nothing left. He opened a clinic at Market Square 23, next to the town's Jewish ghetto. He joined the Polish Home Army. His wife, Murka, worked as a liaison officer for the resistance. Under German law, any Pole caught treating a Jewish patient faced execution. An old man lived in the house directly behind the clinic, one of the ghetto's elders, suffering from a gangrenous toe. No licensed doctor would
risk treating him. A scrap of white cloth on the fence meant he still needed Łazowski. When it appeared, Łazowski waited for dark, slipped through a loose board, and worked on the toe by candlelight. Afterward, he falsified his own supply logs to hide what was missing. On July 21, 1942, German police sealed off the town square. An officer named Novak ran the operation. Residents were forced onto the cobblestones. The old and the very young were shot where they stood. The rest were loaded onto trucks.
According to later investigations, almost the entire Jewish population of Rozwadów was killed or deported that day. Łazowski watches from his clinic window. In his breast pocket is a cyanide capsule, kept for the day the Gestapo comes for him, too. The shooting goes on until dusk. When he finally looks into his backyard, the house behind the fence is empty. The old man is dead in his bed. No cloth ever hangs there again. The nightmares start within the week. In his sleep, a Gestapo officer holds a metal rod to his temple. A hammer swings somewhere behind him. He wakes before it lands. How does one doctor fight an army with no weapon at all? In late 1942, Łazowski turns the trick into a system. An electrician named Józef Reft comes in with a fever. Łazowski diagnoses pneumonia, injects him with the same inactivated bacteria, and mails a blood sample to the regional lab in Tarnobrzeg. The telegram comes back positive. Vial Felix again. He works alone, keeps the vials in a locked drawer, tells patients only that it's a protein treatment, tells his wife nothing at all. Every injection is a bet against a firing squad. Typhus naturally spikes in winter, when crowded rooms breed body lice. Łazowski and Matulewicz match the pattern. More injections in winter, fewer in spring. To spread the paper trail, they send some patients to outside doctors who have no idea what they are really treating. Those doctors order their own tests, and those come back positive too. Red warning signs go up on the roads into the area. Achtung, Fleckfieber, typhus. 12 villages around Rosvado fall under quarantine. German patrols start taking the long way around. Deportations stop. Inside the zone, the usual confiscations slow. Farmers keep their own harvest. Families sleep without listening for trucks. Men stop hiding in their own homes. Łazowski walks the streets at noon, in the open, with fabricated lab results stacked on his desk like proof of a disease that has never existed. Untreated epidemic typhus can kill between 10 and 60% of the people who catch it. Roswadu reports 0 deaths. The math is the problem, and Dr. Richard Herbold, the German chief of medicine at the Stalowa Wola Steelworks, is the one who studies the survival rate and sees the flaw. By late 1943, local collaborators report what they've seen: healthy people walking freely through a supposed plague zone. A county doctor named Ludwig Ruchidlo slips into Łazowski's office. A whisper: the Gestapo suspects fraud. An inspection team is already on its way. The clinic door locks. A hand closes over the capsule in his coat. What happens when a lie this big gets a physical exam? In February 1944, a German military convoy reaches Roswadu with a 6-man medical commission, led by a senior colonel who also serves as the unit's physician. Łazowski and the village elder have prepared for this. A banquet laid out in the square, roasted meat, vodka poured without limit, the smell of it cutting through the February cold. The colonel eats well and drinks more. By the second hour, the paperwork has stopped interesting him. He waves the real work toward his assistant, a younger physician, sober, still standing, and stays behind at the table. Outside, the cold hits harder. The assistant follows Łazowski past the square, past the last lit windows, to a run-down hut at the edge of the village. He hesitates at the door. Whatever he expected, it wasn't this. Every patient inside has been chosen with care. Each one received the Proteus injection weeks ago, and each one happens to be sick right now, with nothing more than ordinary flu. An old man coughs in the dark. A woman shakes under a thin blanket. The air smells of sickness and unwashed wool. Real typhus leaves a dark rash across the torso. It can cause delirium, confusion, neurological collapse. None of these patients show it. A real exam would end the deception in minutes. Łazowski stands in the doorway and speaks in calm, careful German, describing the lice in the bedding, the transmission rates, how fast it spreads in a room like this one. The assistant looks at the coughing patients and stops moving forward. Medical training says one thing. Everything he's heard about the Eastern Front says another. He does not step closer. He draws blood from a distance and walks back out into the snow. The blood goes to a real lab. The vial Felix reaction works exactly as it has every time before. Every sample comes back positive. German health authorities certify the epidemic as real. The investigation closes for good, and the quarantine stays in place. In July 1944, Soviet artillery starts landing across the San River. The German line breaks. Novak, the same officer who ran the square liquidation 2 years earlier, rides up to the clinic on a motorcycle and tells Łazowski his name is now on a Gestapo execution list for aiding the underground. One bag, packed fast. Morka beside him, his wife, and the woman who has carried resistance messages through the occupation. Their hands find each other, and they run. 5 miles of open ground, crossed under artillery fire. Along the way, Morka collapses, acute peritonitis, a life-threatening abdominal infection. The wheelchair, the wreckage, the hospital in Stalowa Wola. Łazowski pushes her through all of it. Minutes after he carries her down to the basement, a missile destroys the second-floor room where she had been lying. German forces pull out of the region within days. 12 villages stay standing. By later estimates, As many as 8,000 people across those villages avoided deportation or worse because a lab result said they were already dying of something else. In the rubble outside the hospital, Łazowski reaches into his coat and pulls out the cyanide capsule he has carried for 2 years. He walks to a cast iron stove and drops it in. The capsule burns.